Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand? Join Councilman Taylor, salute to our flag and country.
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for our prayer.
God of heaven and earth, thank you for the blessing of this day, for the breath of life and for hope in times that can seem difficult. We pray for your blessing on these gathered here to do the work of the city of Guthrie. Give them the strength and wisdom to lead well and to make decisions that will benefit the people of this community according to your purposes. In the Bible, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities since you have placed them to promote peace and order and justice. I pray for our mayor and for our city officials and the council assembled here to do this. Be the guard over them and their families. Bring discernment, harmony, and joy to this meeting. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Now open our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting of June 20th. Second item on the agenda is public comments, community announcements, and recognitions. I actually have one for item number 7, and I'll do that at that time. We have none other at this time.
Your Honor, if I could, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to make a recognition. I know normally we wait till the council's comments at the end, but my friend Kenny Porter, who served on the Guthrie City Council from 1975 until 1987, is in the audience, and Councilman Porter graciously supported my mother when she ran, and she replaced him, so I just wanted to recognize him, and he came this evening, and I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay. Councilman Porter? Welcome back.
Okay. This is the first time in this building.
Okay, all
I
right.
was in the old building.
All right, good, good. Well, that's worth a celebration too. Item number 3, consent agenda items A and B. A is approval of Public Works Authority meeting of June 6th. B is the approval of the payment of invoice number 120DE for $110,518 to Premier Truck Group for a Freightliner chassis for the back jet sewer cleaner. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. We have motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Hey, Kenny, have we got that truck yet?
We have received the chassis, but it is still down at Southwest Trailer.
Okay. Okay. I just asked. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from all those present then to approve consent agenda items A and B. That being the last item on our Public Works Authority meeting. I adjourn our Public Works and I open our City Council meeting of June 20th. Second item on the agenda is a consent agenda items A through E. A is the approval of the city minutes of City Council minutes of June 6th. B is the approval of pay request number 2 for ozone roofing for the library roof of $33,224. Item number C is approval of pay request from Park Hill Engineering for the HVAC replacement project to the amount of $2,135. D is the approval of the agreement between the City of Guthrie and Sodexo operations for use of the Highland Hall facility for the Logan County Aging Services. And E is the approval payment invoices for Boss Lighting for the animal shelter in the tune of $18,631.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of any of those items or questions?
If you just repeat that name again.
Sodexo.
Sodexo. I'll practice it next time. Any other questions? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval from those council present then to approve consent agenda items A through E. Item number 3, discussion and possible action on a request for a special use permit for the exception of the zoning code for a metal accessory building, property located at 818 Walnut Creek Road. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. As indicated, this is a special use permit for an exception to the design standards. The property is located in an area where the code allows no metal accessory structures. However, like every code, there's always some exceptions or some, properties that don't always fit in perfectly. And this happens to be one of them. The property owner is looking to put a metal exterior building. If you read the staff report and even look at the site plan, you'll notice that the entire property is completely surrounded by a tree or a tree canopy, which is very thick. You currently can't even see the house from the street. So based on the size of the property, the tree canopy, and all of that, both staff as well as the Planning Commission had recommended approval to allow for a metal accessory structure. I just want to add that it isn't allowing anything other than that. The property is allowed to have the accessory structure, so the size, the height, and all of that meets code. The only portion that does not meet code is the exterior material. We did receive one comment letter that was against it. That was provided in your packet. However, at the Planning Commission meeting, there were no people that showed up against it, and I didn't get any other phone calls. The Planning Commission did recommend 3-0 to approve the special use permit. The owner applicant is here if you have any questions of him or me.
How much land is there?
2.37 acres.
Is it gonna be north or south of the house?
It'll be on the back, so it'll be the north side.
North side.
Yeah,
And
because
you
it's off a private road there. There's basically two houses there, and he's on the north side, and it'll be in the backyard on the north of his house.
And what size did we approve in the last time we went around this? I know we approved
Unlimited
it.
for that size.
Unlimited for
Because
that
anything greater than 1.5 acres has no size
Okay.
limitation, as long as it's within reason of
Right.
what we see in the community. Yeah.
And the roof won't be higher than the house, correct?
It won't be
That-
higher than 15 feet. Currently,
Okay.
the code says 15 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from the information that you sent us, it looks like it's totally surrounded
Yes.
by
Yeah,
trees.
Yes. And actually, the trees are thick to where even if there aren't any leaves, you really still can't see anything. Because I had a picture from fall and
Yeah.
you still couldn't
Most
see.
of them look like cedars anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, any other,
Is it your house?
Yes.
Okay.
any other questions, discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
A motion and a second.
Yeah, I got that.
Any last minute thoughts? Okay, submit your votes then.
All votes are in.
See the votes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, unanimous approval then to
Building.
approve that zoning request or exemption from the zoning. Item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding ODOT, the TAP grant for the downtown streetscape project. Eddie, are you handling that?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay,
All right, Mayor and Council, this is a TAP grant that the city applied and received approval for. Actually began in 2014. I believe the TAP grant was awarded in 2017. And given the time between the original application, where we're at today, we thought it'd be a good idea to bring it back to council so that you could be reapprised of the situation. So what we're doing on this TAP grant, what we've applied for and been funded, is a sidewalk replacement on Vision Street. So this will essentially bring the sidewalk into ADA compliance. I will tell you, the original City of Guthrie match was $169,601. The invoice the City of Guthrie received May 15, 2023 was for $467,000. Inflation got to us pretty quickly.
I guess so.
However, one phone call to the division engineer, we set up a meeting, we discussed our options. City engineer Bill Myers was there, Tenny Maker, former city manager Leroy Alsop as well, and we were able to come to an agreement that ODOT would cover the cost of the increase. So ODOT said, you know what, we understand, this is a local project. We explained, hey, we've got $400,000 in the budget for street repairs for the entire year. we can't fathom spending $467,000 on a sidewalk that's existing. ODOT agreed, and so the result of that meeting was an engineering match from ODOT in the amount of $297,989. So the city of Guthrie's portion is now what it was, $169,601. At this time, staff recommends approval. We're here to answer any questions. The city engineer and the public works director can answer more detailed questions.
Will this go from Harrison on over to Cleveland, or is it gonna be just Harrison?
So it's the alleyway south of
Okay.
Harrison,
Oh, okay.
right? Okay.
Down to
South
where?
of
What we
Harrison down to
talked
Oklahoma.
about years ago. Okay.
Alley south of Harrison to the alley just south of Cleveland.
It's what we were talking about doing when they did the original sidewalks.
Right.
So how did we get past HP on that, or did we?
Well, the project started out as a streetscape project,
Yeah.
and so it had bump outs, landscaping, et
That's right.
cetera. The project you have before you tonight is a sidewalk replacement.
Okay.
So where there's brick, there will be brick, where there's concrete, there will be concrete. There is
Simple as
no
that.
landscaping, there is no bump outs for safety, none of the above.
Well, any of this,
But it makes it ADA
It is ADA
compliant.
compliant, that is correct.
What does that, you mean just like ramps and,
So the slope and the pitch of the
Slopes.
sidewalk.
yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
the amount of run you can go at the pitch as you're going down the sidewalk has to be compliant with the American Disabilities Act.
So moved.
will we use the money that we had set aside from the gentleman road trip? Remember when they came in here, we had all that money set aside? Is that the money we're gonna use? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the
Yes,
money came
okay,
from.
Okay.
That was,
You were just a kid then.
Yeah, I was.
You were at the concert.
Just a kid.
that was part of the original. So we have a motion
I second
and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to move forward with $169,601 of matching grants for the TAP downtown streetscape project. Item number 5, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3393, amending ordinance number 3311, temporarily extending the days allowing the discharge of fireworks within corporate limits of City of Guthrie, with said ordinance expiring at 11 p.m. on July 5th. Councilor Guthrie, got the lead on that?
I mean, I can. I've had multiple calls with people. 4th of July falls on a Tuesday this year, and people are wanting to do their get-togethers on the weekend. So I talked to Eddie and said, what can we do? And so we've come up with, I didn't realize Friday was in there.
We Friday.
But it makes sense, because Fireworks at Poppin's doing the 1st on Saturday. They're doing their fireworks show. And so we come up with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and I think you actually added Wednesday.
So the existing ordinance has July 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Correct.
So Wednesday was already in the ordinance.
Right.
All we've done with this ordinance is amend to allow Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
To allow the weekend prior, people can have their barbecues, whatever they're gonna do their fireworks, or if they don't wanna do their fireworks, they can go down to Red Brick Nights and watch the fireworks from Fireworks at Poppin. So I make a motion to approve it.
The pushback is usually impact on animals,
I
as
know.
well as people that want to try to get some sleep. So why did we include Friday and Wednesday?
So Wednesday was existing, and Friday was part of the weekend, was city staff's thought. We're open to suggestions, we'd be happy to amend that.
I mean, we can do Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That probably makes more sense anyway. But people aren't gonna be doing them Monday. Odds are Tuesday, probably not so much. They're gonna be doing it over the weekend.
They're doing them now.
And they're doing them now. They're gonna be doing them regardless of what we do, Steve. The thought is that you're gonna have to buy a $15 permit.
Right.
So
And
the
we've
more
done that
days, the
before.
more permits
We've done that every year. We've always extended it.
to the weekend.
Oh, I know,
About
I just
3-4.
don't understand extending it on the Friday before.
Well-
I would,
Hey, they're
I know
already
you've made
popping.
the motion, but,
We went to bed last night, I could hear them outside popping.
yeah,
So they're already out popping.
I don't think you're gonna get that many on Friday. I think your big deal's gonna be Saturday, and
Should be. Especially
probably that's it.
You'll have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Most people are working Monday.
Well,
So,
not everybody. Yeah, I was gonna say, not everybody.
Not everybody.
There's
A
about
lot are.
All right.
Anyway,
The
I got a
whole-
motion to
The whole
approve.
question is because of the weekend, because it falls in the middle of the week.
Right.
Correct.
And so when families come together for the weekend and cook out and everything, if they buy a permit, they'll be able to pop fireworks. with
They
that-
have to have the permit though.
With that
yes.
family, or
Right.
whatever gathering.
But they have to have the permit in city limits.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval of all those present, councilmen present, then to approve the ordinance 3393, amending ordinance number 3311, changing the date for the authorization of fireworks within city limits.
Now, can we go do that on your road?
I have earplugs.
I'm kidding, Steve.
As long as you have a permit.
Yeah,
We'll say that one more time, as long as you have a permit.
exactly.
Okay. Item number 6 is discussion possible action to declare an emergency clause for this ordinance that we just passed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval of the emergency clause attached to ordinance number 3393. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3394, amending ordinance number 3358 concerning employee residency requirements for chief of police and fire chief. Eddie?
Yes, Mayor and Council. As you know, we have been interviewing for a new fire chief. This time, the fire chief candidate has been selected via the interview panel. Unfortunately, the candidate lives approximately 5 miles outside of the existing boundary. So, and by existing boundary, I mean existing city limits. The current ordinance allows or requires the fire chief and police chief to live within city limits, the Guthrie Public School District, or the Coyle Public School District. There's some ambiguity here as to why the Coyle Public School District has been included. Not quite sure. However, what I'm requesting an amendment to this ordinance is something that would accommodate the candidate who currently lives less than 5 miles outside of city limits and 2 miles outside of the Guthrie Public School District. So,
Well, my understanding is Coyle is the edge of Coyle, the back edge of Coyle, which
Yeah.
is still Coyle, to the firehouse is further than,
Than the applicant's
well,
house.
than the applicant where we're talking about would be to the firehouse.
Correct.
And the second thing, and most importantly for me, since this whole thing's come up, is that I'm not even sure this is enforceable. Okay, and I ask, can we actually legally do this? And I'm told there's gray area. And why is there gray area? It's not in the charter. I'm looking at an ordinance that doesn't allow it, but we're not that type of community. What does the community have to be on that one?
You have to be a statutory city.
Statutory city, and we're
I
not?
will defer to the city attorney on that, but I believe that's this statute, 1122-127 applies to statutory cities and not to charter cities.
So the question is what we've done by putting that ordinance into play, is it even legal? It's not that it's illegal, is it enforceable?
The-
Is the question. And Billy, I'll refer to you on that one.
Well, I don't think there's an answer to that. I don't think it's been tested. There's nothing that I've found that's gonna answer that one way or the other. There's nothing that prohibits us from passing that ordinance. The question is the enforceability, if it was tried, if it was taken to court.
Right, and that's where I'm at. So if we're going to make an amendment to an ordinance that may not be enforceable, and the legality is even questionable, why are we even doing that, and why don't we just repeal it?
That's the council's discretion.
But what is your opinion? I'm not trying to throw you under the bus.
No,
I need to get your opinion.
My opinion is, if it's not black and white, and it's not something we enforce, I don't know that that's a battle we need to fight, money we need to spend. If we pass an ordinance, somebody takes us to court on that and we lose it, that's not money well spent.
Yeah.
So
what would your recommendation be?
my recommendation would be to appeal it.
To repeal it?
I think the mayor's gonna read something.
I've got a citizen request for comments that he can't be here, and so I told him I would read his verbatim comments. I'm out of town today and not able to attend the evening meeting. However, during public comments, I would appreciate if you would read the below for me. Thank you. So here are his comments. By passing a new ordinance to allow a chief to not live within our school district boundaries, you are telling our community that we are not good enough to have the expectations that two of our highest paid employees have to live within our community. You are telling citizens of Guthrie that their community is not worthy of having fire chief or police chief live within its boundaries. Job of a councilman is a thankless job. I know that because I did it for 4 years. I also know that job is to make decisions that are in the best interest of our community, not the best interest of the council or of an individual business or a particular person, but in the best interest of the community as a whole. So as you sit up there and make your decisions, you need to make sure that your thought process is that of serving the people of Guthrie, just as the goal to make Guthrie the best community it can be for the citizens. We require you to live in the specific wards to represent the community. We require people who are on our boards to also live in our community. We expect our city manager to live in our community. Why would we expect anything less from two of the largest department leaders? I believe Guthrie is worthy. And that's presented by James Long.
Now, are you taking rebuttal questions? You should be. Well, I would like to comment on that, because how are we doing? Okay, I'm gonna comment. How are we doing a disjustice to the citizens of Guthrie by looking into an ordinance that probably shouldn't have been enacted in the first place? Okay, because of the legality and enforceability of it. Okay, and on top of that, how are we doing a disservice to everybody in this room and the citizens watching in Guthrie to bring in a Guthrie guy, okay, that spent his entire life in Guthrie, and that every battalion chief and everybody that interviewed him wants him as their chief? And then how are we doing a disservice when his proximity is closer than the Edge of Coil's proximity to the fire department? There is no injustice here. The injustice may be this ordinance that we either have to decide if we want to change or if we want to repeal it.
I think part of the logic of the original ordinance that we have on the books now is access. If there is an emergency, how quickly can they get to this place, fire station? And in reality, this person's residence is closer than some of the places that are within the political boundaries that we've established. So there's some illogical
I agree.
concept.
Well, I originally did it so we didn't have people living in Tulsa, okay, or Norman or Moore. That's the reason I initially agreed to it. But, and then I'll be quiet here, just one more thing. I do want to comment on one other issue, Mr. Speaker. Not that get your phone out. Okay, I want to comment on one other issue. The reason that the council has to be in different wards, James, is because the charter says so. Okay, the charter says nothing about this. Okay, there is nothing in the charter about the chief of police and the fire chief, period. So that's why that's why I started questioning even the enforceability of the ordinance that we put into play a few years ago. So that's all. Go ahead, Tracy.
I have a comment too. One of the arguments sent to me was so that they would be a part of our community and spend their money supporting our community. If you look at a map of the Coyle School District, the furthest northeast corner from 33 and I-35, as the crow flies, as a direct line of sight, is 16 miles. It's 8 miles from Stillwater. Where do you think they're going to shop if they live in that quadrant? They're going to go to Stillwater. You go directly east, it's 5 miles from Perkins. Where do you think they're going to shop? So I think that argument's futile to say that they're gonna come spend their money here. That's not a guarantee.
No, it's not.
In my opinion, in retrospect, hindsight's 20/20, whatever, this should have been a matter of radius and not directing to, you gotta live here, you gotta live there. This should have been a radius, because we don't exactly have people jumping on board. We had 4 applicants, only 4, and only 2 of them really qualified, if I'm right, and 1 was selected.
So we had 4 that we interviewed. We received 8 applicants.
Okay.
Of the 8 applicants, the other 4 were out of state. So I think it's more beneficial that we have somebody that grew up in Guthrie, has a Guthrie background, graduated Guthrie Public Schools. The fact that this individual lives 2 miles south of the current school district, off of I-35, is currently employed here. To me, every ordinance that we do, we pass, we draft, is because of a particular reason or person. This is no different than an employment contract where you're drafting it to tailor the needs of that person. The needs of the city manager for Eddie Faulkner versus the needs of the city manager for Leroy Alsop are 2 completely different things. So in comparison, what we're talking about here is 4 miles a day. So the draft we put before you would allow within 20 miles of the Guthrie Fire Station.
Radius,
That was a radius.
we're back to a radius, which it should be, I think.
Now, however, given what the current statute says for statutory cities, I have no recommendation at this time as far as that goes. I'll defer.
Because
to
it
the
may not
city.
be enforceable anyway.
But what we're really talking about, what the important issue here is response time. Period.
Agreed.
Response time, in the case of an emergency. And if you looked at Cool School District, and I know I work for the county, I'm out in those district all the time, and those roads are horrendous, at least on this side of the river. If you lived out in there, I think your response time would be cut drastically compared to where this gentleman lives. Plus, reiterate, he's been with the department 12 years,
14 years,
14, his first job and only job with that department?
since 2009, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, I think.
And who's recommending them? Can you repeat that? I mean, in the panel that
The
interviewed?
interview panel consisted of myself, the HR director, Liz Botello, Battalion Chief Jamie Maker, Leroy Alsop, and then the Fire Marshal, Assistant Fire Chief from the city of Catoosa. He came over, we were looking at the Fire Marshal position here. Everybody on the interview panel, at the end of the day, recommended Dane move forward to the second interview process. After that, myself and the HR director interviewed the additional battalion chiefs. There's 3 of them, Greg McTaw and also Kevin Reed. So, out of respect for you, Dane is a lieutenant, you're a higher rank. What are your thoughts? Do you have any concerns? Share those with us. And we got glowing reviews and recommendations. So all of you know exactly as I do the experience we've had in the past, and I think we can put that behind us in the future, and focus on what's ahead rather than what's behind us.
So to reiterate, he's 5 miles out of the line,
5 miles
which
out of
would
city limits, 2
make him-
miles out of Guthrie School District.
which would, those 5 miles would make him legit to the current
Yes.
ordinance. So ask him to sell his house, move 5 miles, buy a new house at today's interest rates. That doesn't seem feasible to me.
It's not.
I
No.
don't think that's a reasonable ask for somebody who has already dedicated 14 years to the department.
But he said he would if he was forced to,
Yeah.
how much the job means to him.
Yeah, it would seem to me that we are doing a service for the city of Guthrie by selecting the best candidate by the panel, a significant panel, selecting the best candidate. It would be unfortunate to turn that over due to a technicality
I agree.
of this sort.
I agree.
So I think that we need to be speaking in terms of radius rather than political boundaries as we ultimately redo this ordinance, but I would recommend that we follow this amendment.
Well, before we do the amendment, let's talk about that a little bit deeper, because it's just like personally, had I known that this is potentially probably not enforceable, and it's walking a thin gray line out there, I'd have never voted for it. Okay, and I wouldn't have. Okay, and so now I'm supposed to vote to amend an ordinance that I know is on a thin gray line and probably not enforceable, and there's a lot of gray area to it. It says multiple people that should know. I mean, don't you have a problem with that? I do. I don't have a problem with appointing to approving him to be able to come work as fire chief, given that his proximity. I don't have a problem with that. But in redoing something, an ordinance that, I mean, you're not telling me it's enforceable. You're telling me that it may or may not be. You don't know.
Are you wanting to get rid of it altogether, Brian?
I'm thinking that it should probably be repealed. And then if we want to put something together that's sanctioned by legal counsel.
So if you repeal it, you're leaving it at the discretion of the city manager who's gonna hire that to make a rational decision whether that travel time is appropriate, whether the location is appropriate. It's not saying that we can hire somebody from Tulsa, you're just saying that the city manager is authorized to hire the position because he thinks it's best for the job.
I would like to amend it if it were a legal binding ordinance that we had in play here, but you can't tell me that it is. And I'm not throwing you under the bus, but you're telling me that it may not be. Okay, and so what am I amending?
So to add to the confusion, the ordinance goes on to say, so in addition to what the ordinance currently says, it says, they shall reside within those boundaries at the time of their appointment, within 90 days of the commencement of their employment, or within a reasonable period of time of commencement of their employment as determined by the city manager based upon the employee's individual circumstances.
So
That's wide open.
That's that's open-ended
That's my
anyway.
point exactly.
I think, from my perspective, when we talk about whether or not an ordinance or a law is enforceable or legal, the lowest level of scrutiny that courts give to that is called a rational basis test. And I think this fails a rational basis test, if you ask me, because to use COIL and then not use, if you used the fire district, if you say, which our fire district extends considerably further than the city limits. If you use the fire district, that might be a rational basis. If you used a radius, that might be a rational basis. I'm not seeing a rational basis for that. My second concern is that, and Mr. Wheeler can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that there's ever been a privileges and immunities argument made against these kinds of ordinances. The court has reached the conclusion, based on the due process clause of the 14th and 5th Amendments, that they are valid, but they have not addressed the P&I issue. If they were to look at the P&I issue, the standard of scrutiny, I believe, would not be rational basis. It would be either compelling or strict scrutiny based on the constitutionality issues that could be raised. And to fight that kind of fight would be hundreds of thousands of dollars if somebody chose to sue us over that. So I don't think you have a rational basis for the ordinance. I certainly don't want to get into a P&I.
What's a P&I?
Privileges and immunities clause argument.
And why isn't it in the charter?
That's the other thing, is that there is as I understand, there was a 1984 Attorney General's opinion that says that you can do this, but you have to, if you are a charter city, you have to have charter authority.
Which would be a vote of the people.
Which would be a vote of the people.
So that's where my conundrum lies. What do we do? Do we amend something that is probably, not worth what it's written on? Or do we repeal it and start over? I'll go either way. I mean,
Well, and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
what does that do to our recruitment process of getting a chief? I mean, if we.
well, we can approve, we can
start-
approve Dane without touching this ordinance, I think.
You can't, yes.
Well,
Council can make an improvement without amending this ordinance, can't we? Or do we have to amend this ordinance to make that
I think-
approval?
So it
Mr.
depends.
Faulkner
Yeah.
can say that it's, based on his family circumstance. I mean, the way the ordinance is written, you could literally drive a fire truck through that ordinance.
And why isn't it in the fire district?
No pun intended.
That's another question.
That's a good question.
because we're trying to sum up two individuals, trying to sum up a chief of police and a fire chief in the same ordinance.
Well, I would make a motion that we move forward with the hiring as the board, the selection board recommended to us, and then review our ordinance at a later time to put it in the appropriate
Format. or whatever.
format.
I'll second that.
verbiage, that meets our charter as well as the intent of this council.
I'll second that if you can make a
Just
motion.
for
What were you
clarification,
saying?
so hold on a second. So for clarification though, so this body does not need to authorize the hiring. The hiring decision is solely of the city
Correct.
manager. So
Yeah.
there's no action needs to be taken as far as this individual.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, hired.
Yeah, because
Yes.
the city manager hires. you.
Okay.
He's hired by the
What's
city.
wrong with us just amending it right now for the perimeter and then just coming back to it later if we want to amend the whole thing?
I think I would ask for the candidate's own level of sense of security, that we give them something. Whether we admit it, it doesn't have to be the 20-mile radius. It can be any number of things that we want to discuss tonight. It doesn't have to be appealed tonight, but I think there needs to be some sense of action that, hey, next month or
What's
move it to
the- what's
20
the
miles.
candidate's start date?
tomorrow.
All right, well, so you
do it
don't
to
have
20
a
miles.
motion on the books, or
do
you
it to
do?
20 miles.
Here's,
Do something
Currently,
too.
what we have here still says it's up to him,
Yeah.
at his discretion, no matter what. That discretion, so.
But the
All-
candidate
all we're-
wants something
all we're
because
doing
of the ordinance.
Saying-
And I get that. So in this particular case, I'd make a motion to do, to make it a 20-mile radius. But I do want to come back to this on the enforceability of it moving forward. I don't just want it to get swept under the rug. And so that's my motion.
This,
Well,
just
you
for the
have- you
record,
have
we're
a-
not,
You have a motion on the table. You had a second to that motion.
That's-
I'm not sure that that motion is actually
A motion.
You
a
gotta vote
valid
on it first.
motion.
You're gonna have to
But
vote.
here's the thing. I think because we have a draft of an ordinance 3394 in front of us, I don't think we can rewrite unless you want to amend the draft. And I don't think we want to go through a markup session right here. I don't think that that's what you want to do.
What are you
is
talking
go
about? We're
through
just
markup.
adding to it, right?
I think what you want to do is, I think you want to table that, and then clear the ordinance with legal as to what. You can take no action, is the way I see it. You can take no action, and there would be no action taken. You could put it back on another, or you could table it. Is that correct?
Will this affect how he's hired if we don't do anything?
But you're saying, so Billy, but you as our city attorney, are you saying that we can't amend this to 20 miles tonight?
You can. What I think Grant is saying is it's gonna be cleaner if you do a new ordinance. It can be done by interlineation, any part of that.
Well, but I'm asking you, if we,
Yes, we do the-
Eddie's got a proposal to make it, to increase it to a 20-mile radius versus these school districts, 20-mile radius from the firehouse.
yeah.
And that's what we're modifying. All my concern is it a legal binding ordinance? That's all. And nobody's been able to tell me yes or no.
Let's
But that's
do that
kind
later.
of- That's two issues,
I know.
Right.
two separate issues.
So that's why I
We
went
make
ahead,
them-
that's why I made the motion to do the 20-mile radius that Eddie is asking for, with the caveat that we come back on the
Yeah.
legality of the ordinance, and it doesn't get just brushed under the carpet at
So-
some point.
So, Councilor Ballford, if I could jump in for just a minute. With the current ordinance saying that within a reasonable period of time, the city manager, based upon the employee's individual circumstances, the city manager can determine that reasonable period of time. If we want to table this item or pull it, no action, and do it all in one swoop, which is what I think. Vice
That's what
Mayor,
Grant's saying, yeah.
Gary is asking for, I think we can do that as long as we're on the same page that that's where we're headed. But the current ordinance gives enough authority and security there if that's where we're headed.
Well, I think certainly the communication that we're hearing is that we're all in support of allowing the hiring that you have already made.
Of Dane.
And that we want to create a legal
What?
ordinance, if you
Sorry.
will.
Yeah, well, not just the hiring, but that he doesn't have to move is the main thing.
And,
Is the-
and like the city attorney said, the hiring is the discretion of the city manager.
Right.
Absolutely.
What we
Sorry.
could have done is, we could have said, Dane, you've got a year to move into city limits, and we could have never addressed this issue and moved on down the road. That's not clean, that's not the way to do business. The council should have been apprised of the situation, which I made you aware as soon as this issue came up. Staff is open for recommendations as to how to move forward. If you'd like to see a different version of this, we should do that.
So I'm gonna pull my motion then, and.
Wait, there's a motion on the table.
The question is,
So-
whether there's a second to that.
Yes.
There was a motion and a second.
Right, there was.
You
The,
second it?
right, there will have to be, if you want to change the motion, you're going to have to withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Is that agreeable to the second?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right.
Just for the record, we're not changing this for someone, we're changing it because of someone, and there's a big difference. It's no different than any other ordinance being changed because one resident has an issue and we notice a hole somewhere, and we're just adapting it. I'm just putting that out there for the record.
So do we have,
No, there's no motion on the table, so you can make a new
Uh,
motion if you want.
I'll make a motion to pass it how Eddie presented it on the agenda. And then with the idea, like Brian said, that we'll come back and visit it as a whole.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes for in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from all the council present, then to adopt ordinance number 3394, amending ordinance number 3358, concerning residency requirements for chief of police and fire chief. Item number 8 is declaring an emergency clause for that ordinance, 3394. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes for in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval and from all council present to adopt an emergency clause for ordinance number 3358. Item number 9, discussion and possible action regarding a request for funding from the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board for installation of perimeter fencing around the airport. Eddie, or
Yes, Mayor, I
Colleen?
will go first, and then I'll turn it over to
Okay.
Ms. Galali. What you have before you and what most of the airport board is here to request this evening is additional funding for the installation of perimeter fencing around the airport. The airport board has requested $400,000 in totality. We split the bill 50-50 with the city of Edmond. This request came prior to my tenure as city manager, just want to make that clear. When I came on board, the board chairman sent me the request via email, as to which I responded and let them know that typical capital expenditure funding requests come during budget season. Capital projects are funded or not funded with each fiscal year budget. So the airport board is aware of that. Staff's recommendation is that this item waits until the next fiscal year budget, and it is at the discretion of the new airport director and/or the airport staff. So this time I'll turn it over to Ms. Golak.
okay?
Good evening, I'm Colleen Lively, representative from the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board. We're coming to you as pleading your help for what we believe is a very important pilot safety issue with the deer on the runway. Unfortunately, we have personal homes that are down towards, I believe it's on the south end of the runway, that feed the deer, so we have a huge problem with them coming. I believe we have a problem on both ends. I had a personal story flying a Piper 140, was already in ground effect, and two just ran right across in front of me. Unfortunately, I did not have any recourse at that time to do anything different. They didn't turn around and go back. Thank God, they went right on across. But we just appeal to you for help for that fencing to protect our pilots. We currently have been approached by 3 different individuals that have corporate jets that would like to do business and hangar their aircraft at the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. But because of near misses, dangerous situations, kind of repeated incidents, they've pleaded with us and they've said, we're just at this point in time ready to go. Wiley Post, Stillwater, or somewhere else, because it's become such an issue. So it's been an ongoing problem for a while. It's never been addressed. We're coming to you and asking for help at this time. The business economic view, of course, if we want to build the economy through our Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport, we want businesses to grow. We want people to hangar their aircraft there. We want those things to continue to go well there at our airport. But being approached by several different people that we have recently, we just felt strongly that we should come kind of on an emergency basis and ask for help for to get some fencing started around the end of the runways at our airport. Thank you.
So, were you going to say something?
No, I'm caught.
Oh.
I'm allergic to something in this room.
So, we're all aware of Edmond's annualized financial commitment, right? Which that blows through it, one fell swoop. And I don't know where we get it if it's not already committed to.
General fund
We don't.
appropriations.
Well,
Yeah, it's city funded.
yeah, I mean, one thing that we have going has nothing to do with the airport, obviously, is our wastewater treatment plant. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on right now that takes deep pockets that we just don't have. And I think it's probably something that's valid, but I think it needs to be in a budget time when it can be appropriated properly, because it's not right now. That's all I have to say.
Right quick, if somebody feeding the deer,
There are personal individual homes that are very close to the end,
You
that
know
one
they
end of
are.
the runway, and they
I do
feed the
too.
deer, which, I mean, we're a rural community, we have deer, I mean, there's gonna be deer.
Right.
But when they're encouraged, there's nothing we can do about that, that's private
Well,
residence.
can we get the FAA involved in this?
Well, the FAA, my understanding, the FAA has guidelines and regulations for
Okay.
that, for safety procedures, just
Right.
exactly for pilots and their aircraft, because I know at least one, I believe 2 men that are out of pocket, tremendous expense right now, and it's repairing aircraft that have been damaged for that. Just thank God no one was injured.
Go ahead.
Is this an FAA requirement?
It is.
So,
I would also like to mention Wiley Post, which has been mentioned a couple of times, does not have perimeter fencing. The airport engineer, Toby Baker with Park Hill Engineering, has addressed the issue a couple of times. We understand there have been a few incidents. I believe in the last 20 years, we've had 3 incidents related to the deer. Typical situations like this, you would do wildlife mitigation. You increase your mitigation efforts. That's what my research has found. In lieu of a capital project expenditure, I'm not against any perimeter fencing. I just think it's kind of the appropriate time. And at this time, when the city of Edmond commits $250,000 for the entire year as their portion of the operating dollars of the airport, a $200,000 request for fencing, I'm not speaking for the city of Edmond, that's what we're talking about here. And we're also talking about some pretty big upgrades in the very near future in reference to the FBO agreement, jet fuel cells, jet fuel tanks, that also come at the tune of $200,000 per city. So there are some large commitments in the future, and I think project prioritization will be essential to getting the best use of the dollars.
Have you taken this to Edmond council?
Yes, they have representatives on our board.
No. Have you taken it to their council, this request?
It has not gone
Okay.
to, has it not, or it hasn't gone once? No,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay,
To
that
Edmond
hasn't gone
City
yet
Council.
either. So
And I
what-
know 2 of those incidents have come within the last probably 2 or 3 months, because we had individuals that had asked to come to our board meeting and see if they could address us, because I didn't know until those men came to the board and said, I just want to let you guys know this is what happened. That's been within the last couple of 3 months.
Yeah.
So-
Has anybody contacted the Wildlife Commission for
Yes.
guidance?
The outgoing airport manager that just left us had contacted them, I think, on several different occasions.
What do they have to say?
You know, I don't recall, do you recall what Shalon had reported from that?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak from the.
I didn't know that either.
You can come up and identify yourself and,
I'm Brad Latham, Chairman of the Airport Board currently. Yes, so we currently, in the past, have had a federal trapper to kill the deer, remove the deer. We, as a board, voted to increase that dollar funding, to increase the amount of hunting and removal of deer on the airport property. And that it doesn't seem to be as effective as we had hoped. And just to clarify, the first deer strike happened on November 27th, 2022. That was a multi-million-dollar airplane that was, as it was landing, it struck a deer that was very close to a deadly accident. But unfortunately, the 2 passengers were okay. Since then, that person has moved his jet to Wiley Post. It's gotten bad enough. The second deer strike was January 19th, 2023. That was another major accident. Since those 2 accidents, that's when we, as a board, exercised our duties according to our joint charter between the 2 cities. It says the joint board shall have the power to plan, acquire, establish, develop, construct, enlarge, improve, maintain, equip, operate, regulate, protect, and police any airport or air navigation facility or airport hazard to be jointly acquired, controlled, and operated. So we took that as our responsibility to request that funding. I know it's emergency, but that's why, and I just want to also clarify that it is not the, as the charter, as I understand it reads, it's not the airport director's responsibility to request funding, but it is the airport board's. So that's why we as a board elected to request funding for that. And I understand it's last minute, but it is kind of a life safety issue. And we thought, first we discussed 100,000 each, just to kind of get the ball rolling. And just to be clear, this isn't enough fencing to get the whole project done. We estimated it's going to take about 16,000 lineal feet, between $40 and $45 per lineal foot. About 680 to 750,000 is what we think the whole project would last or would take. But we as a board thought that between 100 to 200,000 per side would help get the ball rolling, and maybe we could find an area to help with the mitigation of the deer crossing.
Is this going to replace the fence that's already there now?
There's some fencing around the airport now, but the bad areas are basically just barbed wire over there.
And they're to the south.
Yeah, and so there's people feeding the deer on both sides of the runway right now.
So we need to put a stop to that.
We would love to. I don't know that we as a board have that authority.
And we can.
has there been discussion
We're going to do.
We've discussed, I don't know if,
with the property owners?
I'm not sure.
The people that, okay,
I don't think so. I don't.
okay, all
And
right.
so our thought process was if we could get some of that fencing up to keep that cross traffic, but those are great options as well. And if, we need to wait for that funding, we understand, just kind of life safety.
Well, the prioritization of projects, as Eddie has identified, is a standard part of our budgetary process. I suspect most municipalities are there because we obviously have more needs than we have resources, like many places. And so, yeah, this is out of that cycle and may have to wait until that cycle is in play.
And unfortunately, we're not just, and I expressed this with the airport board last week at the airport board meeting, the city has to consider funding from the police department, the fire department, public works. Every department has a need that is crucial. I mean, if you want to talk about infrastructure and $150 million worth of water pipes in the ground that need to be replaced, we talk all day long. The funding priorities, in my opinion, they need to come from staff, and it needs to come during budget season. Not that I don't hear the request of the airport board, of which I am a member. However, I think we have to, as a city, prioritize those requests and go from there.
Well, we've got a new director coming anyway, all right?
That's correct.
So,
Like I said, we just thought it was if there was an opportunity for some emergency
Okay.
funding with the
All right.
life safety. So.
All right, thank you. Do you have anything else? Any other questions from the board? Is there a motion? No motion?
No motion.
No motion. Item dies on the agenda for lack of a motion. Item number 10, discussion of possible action regarding mayor's nomination for one appointment to the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport for the term ending June 30th, 2026. Mr. Latham's appointment is what we're talking about here. He was appointed in 2017 initially, reappointed in 2020. His term expires at the end of June, I believe it is. And we have 3 applications for the board for that position. My recommendation to the board is to appoint Grant Guthrie to that, for that term, ending in June 30th, 2026.
so moved.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. Questions? Submit your votes.
Abstain.
Abstain is a negative vote.
Don't like the person?
By a,
Hey,
It's all right.
Grant,
What?
leave. You should go outside, you don't have to vote. Go, really.
He didn't.
well,
Rather
Yeah.
than,
He abstained, he can abstain.
It's fine.
by a vote of 5-2, the nomination of Grant Guthrie to the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board is approved.
5-1, Steve.
I'm sorry?
5-1.
5-1. Okay,
Yeah, Jim's not here.
I'm sorry, 5-1. Item number 11, discussion of possible action regarding mayor's nomination and appointment to the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board for the unexpired term of Dr. Kent Smith, who just recently submitted his resignation. His term expires June 30th, 2025. And my nomination, again, the applications that we have is to recommend Tracy Williams to that unexpired term.
So moved.
second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. By a vote of 6. Six to one. The motion to nominate Tracy Williams for the unexpired term of Dr. Kent Smith is approved. Item number 12, city manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it's been a busy couple of weeks. So if you saw my email and the corresponding press release, although we were not able to open the municipal pool, we have finally reached an agreement between First Capital Trolley, City of Edmond, and Pelican Bay to offer free swimming to Guthrie residents and also free shuttle services. So we've worked tirelessly on this project. It seems minute in nature, however, we've explored several opportunities that have taken much longer than I wanted to take. The funding for this project comes from the annual cost that we typically pay So at this time, the trolley and the city of Edmond are billing us for the usage on a weekly basis. And we'll see how that funding lasts, if we need to come forward for a budget amendment. However, at this time, it's not anything we wouldn't have already spent due to regular operation. Justin, Shonda, and the team worked really hard on that, so appreciate their efforts. Over the weekend, Public Works was out Saturday, or I guess Sunday morning from midnight to about 4 a.m. clearing roads. We had about 8 spots, 10 where trees were down. Appreciate those guys. They always answer the call, no matter the weather or the circumstance. Their Public Works crews, in addition to police and fire, are out there serving the citizens. Coming up on July 1, the shops will officially open. Public Works, again, they're pushing forward. I think got our fingers crossed, and we're hoping for good things between now and then. That night at Red Brick Nights, fireworks are popping. We'll have their fireworks show. We did announce the hiring of a new airport director, Caden Young. He is joining us from Stillwater Regional Airport. Caden comes highly recommended in the aviation industry. And if you didn't already decide or determine based on the fire chief interview panel, the interviews that I conduct are not one-man interviews. So the airport director interview panel consisted of myself, the Edmond city manager, the assistant director of the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, Airports Manager Division, Nick Young, Craig Boyer with Park Hill Engineering, Vice Chairman Dick Guy of the Airport Board, as well as Leroy Alsop and Liz Boteller, HR Director. So Caden Young was one of 9 applicants, and he rose to the top. It's a great thing to have candidates when you have the director of a state agency come in and say, he's your guy. So quality staff. We're adding quality staff to the city of Guthrie. Not that we don't already have quality staff, but we continue to raise the bar. Your next fire chief will be Dane Lawson. So congratulations to Dane. As I mentioned earlier, Dane was one of 8 applicants, has served on the force, in the fire service at Guthrie since 2009. Currently a lieutenant, has been the union president for the last 5 years, and has come highly recommended by both the interview panel and his subordinates, or actually even his bosses. So that's a good thing. There was some hesitation given his union presidency, but I'll tell you, I think he will learn and grow in this experience, and I look forward to working with him in his next capacity. On the subject of the fire chief, Chief Harlow's retirement party will be Friday in this very room from 2 to 4. Please make plans to attend. The summer reading program at the library has had over 500 people involved already. Last week, they included bugs in their interactive learning program. I did let the librarian know this morning it's a good thing he didn't ask for my approval on that, because bugs, I'm not real sure how that ties in. The first budget deadline for the upcoming budget season is Friday, June 23rd. So we have started the conversation with department heads. We've started drafting. Kim has got some numbers we're looking at. So we will have some department head turnover. So we're going to be a little bit flexible in those deadlines with the new fire chief and airport director. At this time, we're looking at July 18th for the council retreat. That was the only date that everybody had consistent availability. So it is Tuesday, July 18th. We do have a council meeting that night, and I apologize. It's the only meeting we're going to have in July, so we will not be able to cancel that meeting. It will be a full day. I think there's an opportunity to cancel the regular meeting and schedule a special meeting for earlier in the day to take care of council business if we're going to spend 8-10 hours in the room together or we can start the retreat later in the day and be here at 7 o'clock at the normal time for the council meeting. Last but not least, lake water levels. Liberty Lake is 4.8 feet below, which is up about 1.5 feet, Teddy?
About 6 inches.
6 inches.
Yes.
My apologies. Guthrie is sitting steady at about 7.6. So if you saw my email last week, we did close Liberty Lake temporarily to recreational activities. That was due to the algae treatment in which we began at Liberty Lake. We attacked it pretty ferociously, which then resulted in a foul odor for quite a distance. So to be safe, we went ahead and closed it for recreational activities. We did get a surprise visit from DEQ, which was no issue for us. You have exemplary staff. We were prepared for them, showed them everything they needed to see. They went to both the lakes, the water treatment plant, and we received glowing recommendation that hey, you're doing everything you should be doing given where you're at with your status on the lake levels, the algae content that's present, and the heat. You're doing what you can. So, Tenny, did I miss any of that?
No, sir.
So the taste and odor issues, we did activate the PAC machine, which is powder activated carbon. I believe we haven't had any taste and odor complaints the last couple of weeks. So we are ahead of the curve there. I think we're on the right track. We're still looking for some rain. We did get our second pump back for Copland Creek, and we found another issue on the guide rails that go down, take the pump down to the creek, in which they have become rusted. Timmy, help me out.
They came loose from the actual wall where your guide rails mount to the wall. It's all underneath water and could not be determined until they slid the pump down. And then once Haynes Equipment slid the pump down, they determined that the guide rails was loose, not allowing the pump to fit up against the flange correctly. So we've got another contractor coming in to address the guide rails.
So we're working on that. Once we get both pumps back live on Cottonwood Creek, I think you'll see we're going to start heading into better days, assuming that we don't see a large amount of diversion from the two lakes. The last thing I will discuss, City Engineer Bill Myers is here. So last week we met internally with staff, a couple of council members, to discuss the change orders in which we had on the last agenda. We made a decision not to put it on this agenda, as collectively the city engineer as well as city staff are working through those amendments, taking a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything's been checked and double-checked. And the city engineer has agreed to be present, will be present going forward. I think we're headed in the right direction. So be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions, council? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Item number 13 is comments from City Council. Vice Mayor Guthrie.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Guthrie.
Yeah, a couple things. On the change orders that Eddie's talking about, I was one of the ones that tabled that. I also did speak out of turn a little bit in that I thought maybe Myers Engineering made 10, 20, $30 million or something to date on what they were charging us. And I was in those meetings, nowhere near that. So I wanted to apologize personally for that. And let everybody know that, I've dug into Myers Engineering a lot over the years, and Bill, he's outstanding in helping us every step along the way, and he's gonna help us with this change order as well. And at the end of the day, I think everybody will be happy and satisfied, and we'll move forward. But I do apologize to Myers Engineering for throwing that figure out because it was not correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Williams.
No comment?
Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, staff. You guys did great tonight. Appreciate you, Dan, by holding it under a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that was good, Dan.
Yeah. Red Brick Nights is coming up. 4th of July is not that far away, and the weekend's gonna be fun because there's gonna be a lot of fireworks going off. Fireworks are popping. I appreciate them doing it every year, so that's outstanding. Other than that, that's it, Mayor.
Okay, Councilman Rock?
Yeah, I'm excited about the new fire chief. I think he'll do great. Looking forward to seeing what he does. And I'm also excited about the pop-up shops finally opening up on a regular basis too, so that's about it.
All right. Tenny, you and your staff, again, responding to all kinds of things, the water issue just being the last one, but just a continuing effort by you and your staff to meet the needs of our city, and really, really appreciate that, whether it's midnight or 100 degrees or midnight and 2 degrees. You and your staff are there doing things to make our community better for our citizens. So really, really do appreciate that. Red Brick Night's going to be kind of special. Again, kind of kicking off with the shops opening, I think. So kind of a double celebration there. So that's really, really grand. Bill, thank you for your partnership. Been a positive thing for our community. Look forward to that continuing partnership going on. So that's the last of my comments. And
That's it?
well, no, really, the Pelican Bay thing. Yeah, there's more. I mean, talk about thinking outside the box. You know, when we got a pool that goes down, and staff and city manager that get together and look at different options on providing some kind of water recreation for our citizens, providing transportation and access to Pelican Bay. I think
that's a good deal.
Way cool. That is way cool.
You want to give Eddie a round of applause on that? And all the staff, I said?
Yep, way cool. Job well done under difficult circumstances, for sure.
And where do you find those departure times and all that stuff?
So there are instructions for RSVPing with First Capital Trolley. They can be found on the city website and the social media page. And so to catch the trolley, you need to RSVP the day before, and that way they can provide an adequate vehicle to transport folks. So
Do they have to be transported by the trolley to get entrance into Pelican?
nope,
Okay.
they can show up at Pelican Bay, provide their ID with a Guthrie address on it, and they will be let in at no charge. And also, I want to thank you for that. However, I must say, staff gets the credit. I did very little on that, minus helping guide the ship. They do the work. It's my job to make sure it's done. So
I included staff.
Staff gets the credit.
All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen,
Good job.
we're adjourned. Thank you very much.